When I close my eyes, I can almost see it. When I take your breath, you fill up my lungs. And if my mind worked backwards just for a minute, I'd hold on to you before the memory's gone. I remember you, you lift my spirit. With you high is all I'm feeling. Remember how we felt alive. I remember you, you make me stronger. Can't go without it much longer. Remember, remember, I remember you. I am stronger than you could ever hope to be. You don't deceive me. I see through some screens. Blow away your whispers in my mind, I slowly drifting by. All the poems I wrote for you, they made me blind, they made me lie. Heard you in the rain, will you always be there? Last thing you said, it's too late.
Are you serious? All right, welcome to Temporium Weekly, number 11. I'm Fred B. Kennedy, joined by Mad Stats. Senpai, tell him what's up.
Hello and welcome today here for the Temporium Weekly. I'm very happy to be here with you, Kennedy.
I am too. I've been watching this tournament all day on my own. We have some amazing contestants competing. If you're just tuning in right now or just checking out the brackets right now, we have a ban on the Fantastic Four this week. In all of these games, you are going to see no Kinu, no Gaialis, no Pigapet, no Voloren. The teams that people are running are wild, crazy, out there. Everybody's got their own unique flavor on it. We're going to see some cool Whiplum plays, some cool Grandpa plays. I saw some people running mix. Like, this tournament is going to be hot and heavy. Out of the contestants that made it into the top 8, we're going to have Fajik versus Shizinix. We're going to have Alvar versus Mark and LP. We'll cast that game on stream. We'll have Tade versus Kazara. Uwakazi versus Dumaga, and that is going to be our quarterfinals. And then we'll see who moves forward into the semifinals and who moves forward into the grand finals. Anybody you have your eye on, Matt?
Actually, like today, I'm like really interested to see just what everyone has up their sleeves, like how they are tackling basically the new meta without the Fantastic Four. And I'm expecting, I'm expecting a lot of different combos. You already said, like different temps, different stuff. Maybe something's already prevailed, and we like will see some similar things because like the top 8 probably have something figured out better in this matter. So gonna be interesting to see. But I'm actually like really interested in FZac because he's gone 5-0, so he didn't lose a game yet. So his team could be like a really fun one.
Yeah, FC, or yeah, however you say it. I've been saying Fajik as I've seen his name throughout the day. But I tuned into one game and they were doing so incredibly well. I just caught the last turn of it, so I didn't see how well they played all throughout the game. But they just pushed themselves into a position in that final turn that, you know, the last little bit of that match was determined. I'm a huge fan of Markin LP. Every time I see Markin, Markin is such a great player that always brings like their own flavor to it, and they're very and I harp on this. Markin is a very vicious player. The moments you give Markin an opportunity in a game to get ahead, even just like a little bit, they capitalize on it. Another player to keep our eye on today is Tade. Tade is in the quarterfinals versus Kazara. Tade actually won Plus OP's weekly tournament last night and had a very, very strong showing.
They probably also played without the Four strong one.
Yeah. Played without the Fantastic Four on that. And everybody, we are waiting to get into this Markin LP versus Alver game. Another player worth mentioning is Alver. Alver is somebody who's been a part of the Temporium, just a part of like competitive Temtem scene for quite a while, and they always bring hot fire to their games.
I lost to him in the quarterfinals when he won his first Temporium tournament. I still remember that.
I mean, that's why like I mention that every time about Markin LP. Like I fought him when we did the Temtem Masters bot on the Temporium Discord for the matchmaking, and I fought him multiple times. I was like, no, please not again. Please not again.
Yeah, I think I also played him like a few times, but I think my win rate was fine. Like I didn't get wrecked all the time, but yeah, same feelings here.
Some Tims I think we should keep our eyes on for this tournament, and I'll ask you what's your opinion on these two. Without Volarin, I feel like there aren't a lot of good first option answers to Tataru, and Mushuk has a lot more freedom to move around in these games. And I feel like we're going to see a lot of like clutch plays from free Tataru pickups, and then Mushuks that can wall out whole teams. Are there any Tims that you'd be specifically looking for in a format like this?
I mean, Tataru, you already mentioned that. I think it's like pretty. It's in many teams. I've seen it a lot without Fantastic Four being there. So also gonna be interested in that. But yeah, I'm just here for the surprise. I'm just really interested to see maybe something like completely out of the blue, something you just wouldn't even think about when the Fantastic Four would be there.
All right, and we are getting into this match, starting to spectate Markin LP versus Alver. Markin's going to be on blue side, and Alver is going to be on the gold side. First ban goes to Markin as Markin decides to ban out the Volcrane on Alver's team. Alver is considering their first ban now and decides to take out the Xenarath on Markin's team. First pick goes to Alver, picking up Mushuk.
Definitely an interesting pick, but you already said it. He's definitely more free to do stuff when there's no Volarin in here. Also,
go ahead.
Fun fact to mention, Alver played in the tournament on last Monday from Josh Striker. And there was no problems, like the Fantastic Four was allowed to be played, but Alver played without the Fantastic Four and made it to the final. So, yeah. I expect much from here.
Interesting. And for Mark and LP, we're going to see Mix Calibus picked up. And on Alvar's side, we see the second Tem they picked to go along with that Mushuk is going to be a Valash. Alvar banning out Valash on Mark and LP's side, as Mark and LP debates a Saku ban on Alvar's side.
I mean, the good news for Markin is he still has a lot of options on his side that can deal very good with the Valash. But as we know, like if a Valash is set up once, it's hard to get, like hard to stop. But still, at least the Bastion or Rice won't like probably get one shot by Crystal Spikes or something, so they should be good answers to even a buffed up Valash.
Yeah, one of the hard things for being on blue side, you kind of have to project your strategy as gold or yellow side gets to counterpick against the strategy that you are aiming for. So Markin just being very choice with this final ban, debating either the Saku or the Calibus and just taking out those defensive options for Alvar.
Yeah, the Saku, like I saw Alvar's Saku in the tournament on Monday, and it was like always a problem for whoever played against him because he's so tanky, and then he just always with the Lifeful Sap like regenerates and bark shields coming in, they're being tanky, so really annoying Temp to deal with.
All right, Markin banning out Whiplump instead and picking up the Tataru, which is kind of free here for him, as Grandpa is picked up and Calibus is picked up for Alvar.
Yeah, also like, I mean, Markin LP's squad like is like missing Grandpa, for example, and there is a Hypnosis Tem, and like one of the few left without Kino and Pigapig being there, so I think that's really interesting to see.
Yeah, Mastion and Madrid picked up for Alvar, and Ukama picked up as the final, or Ukama picked up for Alvar, and Mastion and Madrid picked up for Mark and LP. As we get into game one of these quarterfinals, Mark and LP versus Alvar. What do you think we're going to see in this first round here, Matt?
I am really interested to see if Alvar actually wants to stick to Valashi. I mean, it should survive the attacks, but it will be really low if Markin decides to go all in here. On the other hand, I could see Markin maybe swap in an answer for Valash for one of his Temps, so that he would only maybe attack with the Mix and maybe swap Calibus out.
Yeah, Mix, such a great option to sit on the field here. One of the things we've seen in the past, though, is that Mushuk with a perfect jab on the Mix could just completely mess up that Mix from ever getting Puppet Master online. Something Markin has to be very considerate of currently.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Alvar could try to crush Mix, depending on what TVs it has, but I don't think that would work.
Mark and LP swapping out Mix, the Mastion coming in and taking that slot. Valash with the Crystal Spikes onto the Calibus' slot. Is going to deal just over 25% damage to that Calibus. Mushuk with an uppercut onto the Mastion, and Calibus with the Toxic Ink onto the Valash, putting 2 stacks of poison onto it.
And that's basically the only damage it really deals to Valash. I mean, the attack itself, not such huge damage, especially to Crystal Tem here in this case. But yeah, the Mastion swap came in, but not as I expected it. It came in the other way around. I think the damage output for Alvar was fine. I mean, he can live with that, but not much done yet, so still everything's up in the open.
Yeah, kind of a interesting position Mark and LP pushed themselves into here. Mastion, not much it can do against this Mushuk, as Mastion's a very physical attacker. But what do you think about Embers into the Vlash slot? Because everything Alvar swaps in is free.
Yeah.
Oh, Mastion running Cage on this Valash, forcing it to stay in. The Valash tried to swap, but it's not going to be able to because of the Cage. The perfect jab coming from the Mushuk onto the Mastion. Calibus with the Strangle onto the Valash, and the Valash is stuck. It's going to die this turn.
What a play here, and I mean, like, nice play by Markin, especially considering that, like, Mushuk and Valash, I mean, they can deal some damage to Calibus and Mastion, but it's like we saw in the first turn, it's not a huge deal, so now you can deal with the Valash and can do like an even strong attack from Mastion, maybe Meteor Swarm here, and yeah, that could actually kill the Valash, so Markin seems to be in a really good spot if that works out for him.
Yeah, and it's going to be all up to this Mashuk if it can do anything with another uppercut into this Mastion. I don't believe that will take it out, even with the -1 stage of defense. This Meteor Storm is looking free 99.
Yep. This should be enough, and I don't see Mashuk having, like, not even close to, like, get Mastion down here, so...
It's always that shock factor when your opponent decides to run cage.
Yeah.
Valash with the crystal spikes, unable to do so. Mashuk with an uppercut onto the Mastion. It's not going to be enough to take it out. The Mastion with a heavy Meteor Storm coming down on the Valash and the Mashuk. That Pyromaniac, that fire chipping in and knocking the Valash out. The Mashuk's barrier is going to allow it to tank that pretty well as Calibus rests up for the turn and recovers its stamina.
Well, I mean, he had to strangle on, so... I mean, there was no way that he could attack. Oh, he could have attacked now, right? Now that the Lash was dead. Interesting. Still, Grandpa coming back in. Massion's mission here is done. He killed the Valash, so he's free to swap out now and not get killed now by Mashuk and Grandpa. So, yeah, I think Markin is in a good spot now. That's like the... Valash is the most dangerous Alva had, in my opinion. Like, it can always snowball so hard once it gets going.
Yeah, a fear here, though. Not much that this board state can do to threaten Grandpa and Mashuk. We could see a turbo choreography coming out from this Mashuk, and once Grandpa's online with that hyperkinetic strike, it is dark days ahead.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, also the hypnosis then always being in front with that, basically. Oh, okay.
Grandpa with the wind burst onto the Mastion and the uppercut coming from the Mashuk to finish it off. Calibus with the Toxic Ink onto the Grandpa. The Toxic Tick's going to do more damage than the Ink. And what a shocking turn, leaving that Mastion in there.
Yeah, that definitely was a surprise.
Swapping in.
That was definitely a surprise for me. I was like really sure that Markin would swap here. But
yeah, both players reading each other.
Yeah.
Markin recognizing that turn was free for Alvar. Alvar recognizing that Markin was going to probably try and take advantage of the lack of pressure.
Well, it went definitely not as expected, and Elvis putting his foot back in the game here with that move.
Grandpa swapping out for Alvar. Calibus swapping in, entering the battlefield for the first time on the side of Alvar. Crystal Spikes from Mix going onto that Calibus slot. But this is why you bring Calibus, so it can tank that Crystal Spike really well. The Snare eating Mix's gear, and an uppercut onto the Calibus, and another strangle from Markin LP's Calibus onto Alvar's Calibus. Without Sweatband, the Smix only has a limited amount of time it can stay on the field.
Yeah, and that was a great move by Alvar bringing in the Calibus here. I mean, he took a good amount of damage still, but yeah, he took out the Sweatband. If that was the case, then Mix definitely is a lot weaker now. And funnily enough, Calibus strangles Calibus.
Mashuk swapping out, not able to do much against this enemy team. Grandpa swapping in, Mix with the Psy Surge onto the Mashuk slot, but the Grandpa's going to be able to tank that pretty well. But oh, it is really, really low. That Grandpa's going to have to hyperkinetic strike and pray.
Yeah, and I mean the hyperkinetic is not going to be strong because he didn't get any buff yet. I mean, he has no extra speed to make the attack any stronger, and I don't even see Grandpa taking out Calibus with a hyperkinetic strike that's unbuffed. So really bad for Alvar here, definitely again, and Grandpa could be dead any minute now.
Doubling up into this Mix's slot, though, could net Alvar a little something. That Grandpa might outspeed the Mix if it's got no speed investment, as Hyperkinetic is priority 3.
Yeah.
Grandpa with Hyperkinetic going onto the Calibus slot is not going to be enough to take the Calibus out. Mix with Energy Manipulation onto the Grandpa is going to be enough to take it out, and the Grandpa, the big threat, the bully, is gone. Calibus with Toxic Ink onto Calibus. Calibus on Calibus crimes, but the Calibus lives with 1.7%, and Markin OP's Calibus responds with the Toxic Ink of its own. And Alvar's Calibus lives with 49% HP.
And there's always the most unfortunate things that can happen. Being so close to death now. I mean, if he gets Calibus here, he's still like in a spot where this is doable, right? But this is hard. This is hard for Alva. So, like, especially if you consider Tater and Mudo there on the bench and they're still full life. So they didn't even see the light of the field yet, right?
Yeah. One thing though you have to think about, that mix is not going to be able to do much except resting every other turn without the lack of its sweatband. Ukama with the water cannon onto Calibus with the synergy is going to be enough to kill it. Mix uses Psy Surge onto the Ukama slot, going to deal a decent amount of damage, but Ukama having a natural amount of special defense, and the Toxic Ink going onto the Mix. It's going to be 2 stacks of poison, bringing the Mix down to 70% HP. Madrid swapping in for Markin LP. And this is a scary area for this Madrid to be in, staring down 2 Water Tims.
Definitely. I'm not sure if this like is meant to be a bait, but even like swapping in Tateru here, like what would it achieve? I mean, it would still eat a lot of damage from water attacks. So I don't know why he chose to do this here. Maybe his Madrid is like pretty fast and can do something, but I don't see like a crystal dust taking out any of these 2 here. Maybe if he double focuses down the Ukama with a really name also, as I just realized.
The unfortunate thing about that though is Ukama's got Aquatic Whirlwind on deck, and it is a naturally fast Tim.
Yeah.
So the Madrid at a priority 3 mix with the Crystal Spikes onto the Ukama is going to overexert to do so. Madrid with Crystal Dust using another priority 3 move onto the Ukama. The Ukama's not going to get its Aquatic Whirlwind off, and the Ukama is dead. Calibus with the Tsunami going to roll and deal some damage to both of these Tims. The Mix had Puppet Master up, but who runs Tsunami on Calibus? The Mix is dead to the poison. And Tataru comes out for Markin LP. Alvar is keeping this game so close.
And also asking who is running Tsunami on Calibus. I did that, so...
It's me. It's me you're talking about, President.
Yeah. No, but yeah, as I said, Madrid here with the fast Crystal Dust, the double down on the Ukama, like that's the only thing I could imagine working here. And like the Tsunami, like for being effective, it didn't even do that much damage to Madrid, so he's still pretty healthy. But yeah, if we look at the stamina now, there's a big advantage for Markin LP, so he should be in the driver's seat right now.
Big advantage for Markin LP, but that Mashuk revealed that it has Uppercut, which is 4x damage to Madrid. Madrid uses Turbo Choreography, getting a stage of speed off. The Uppercut going on to the Madrid, and that bunny is out of here with that 4 times damage as this Tataru stares down 2 tanky Tims to try and get rid of, using a perfect jab onto the Calibus to get its pain train rolling.
Yeah, I always tend to forget about the 4 times effectiveness of melee attacks on Madrid, so that hurt.
Tataru with a major slash on the Calibus is not going to be enough to kill it, as it likely lives on 1 to 2 HP. Urushal on to Tataru from Mushuk, and Calibus with the Strangle, and that is going to pretty much be this Tataru's life, as it is stunned for this turn. Tataru uses Perfect Jab, but is unable to do so from the Strangle. Mushuk with the Perfect Jab of its own onto the Tataru. The Calibus rests up for a turn. The Tataru is free to unleash its fury this turn, but it's looking at a tanky Mushuk and a Calibus that's sitting on a sliver of HP. It's got at least 4 more turns before it wins this game. A Perfect Jab onto the Calibus knocks out the Calibus, but Mushuk with an uppercut to the Tataru brings it down into close to death range. Major slash from the Tataru onto the Mushuk. Not going to be enough to take it out. The parrier defending off so much of that damage.
And the game's over. And Preston Kennedy with the rap god.
The game is over there, but did Mushuk rest that turn, or was the Mushuk the one that perfect jabbed the Calibus?
I'm not sure. I didn't realize it that fast.
on my screen, I think I'm bugged out. I'm still staring at Calibus. I'm still staring at Tataru versus Mashuk, so I'm just going to exit out of this game. But yeah, that game going in favor of Alvar. Okay, I am very bugged out, and what I'll do is just go ahead and restart my Temtem.
Yeah, and like interesting.
Mashuk coming in clutch there at the end.
0.9% of the Calibus were so important, because imagine, like, what did that do? He first of all got a strangle off, so Tataru was not able to do something for one turn, and he got the Yorushilo from his Mashuk, which then put on the Toxic Ticks, the 4 Toxic Ticks, which did a huge amount of damage. So if Tataru kills the Calibus, this game might turn out the other direction, but he didn't. 0.9%, and that's why Alva definitely wins here.
Yeah, one thing I want to point out too there is that Markin definitely had all of the early game advantage as he kept taking really favorable trades. But the problem when he was trading like that was he would take a favorable trade, he would get ahead, and then he would throw away the Tim of just like, all right, Mastion killed the person it needs to kill, don't need Mastion anymore, and threw it away. And then there was a second Tim he threw away the following turn where it did its job, it got a favorable trade, and then he threw it away the next turn. And all of that inching ahead in that match was then lost each time that he didn't use those surviving Tims to their most optimal position, where he had the lead, but every following turn, Alvar tied it up.
Yeah, like, I'm still confused why Markin just didn't swap out the Mastion there after it killed the Lash, but yeah, it's what's happened. Are you already back in the game?
I am spectating now. We are jumping into game 2 of Markin LP versus Alvar, as Markin is now in the gold side, Alvar is in the blue side, and Markin has banned out the Mashuk on Alvar's side, and Alvar has banned out the Zenarath on Markin's side. Markin picking up Tataru as his first pick, and Alvar debates their first 2 picks for this game. Blue side normally having a little bit of a harder time in picking bans. Alvar's going to have to start off this game with Markin being the one to respond to whatever strategy Alvar's bringing.
Yeah, and as I already said, Tataru, a good pick for the first spot here, because like there's not too many answers to him, especially with Keen.
Alvar going to pick up Volcrane and Grandpa as the opening picks here. Markin LP debating an answer to this, opting to go with the Madrid. Markin LP banning out Whiplump, and it is now Alvar's ban, as Alvar considers what to ban here.
Oh, the Whiplump! I don't know, like if Markin LP just in general doesn't really want to play against Whiplump, especially like because of Mastion and Rice and Drid. But I remember that Whiplump from Alvar was crazy strong when he played on a tournament on Monday. Like it finished off like 3 times on its own.
Yeah, Mix being banned out by Alvar, and Markin, banning out that Whiplump. Alvar picking up Calibus, and it is now Markin's pick. On the Whiplump ban, though, Markin LP is running Mastion weak to water, Madrid weak to water, and Rise weak to water, Calibus weak to wind. So Whiplump just gives him banning out Whiplump just gives him a lot of flexibility in his picks.
Yeah, he only then has to like worry about Yukama basically as leads for most of the attempts you just mentioned.
Markin LP picking up Valash and Mastion. And Alvar picking up Ukama, and let's see who the final pick is going to be as they hover that Saku.
I want to see it. I really want to see it. Like last time was.
I mean, you do really want to see a Saku, but then the Calibus can do some good work against a Saku, unless it's an air specialist Saku. And then Rise is also really good against Saku, but Rise is good against both of Alvar's final 2 picks. So it's a very difficult situation. You know what? I'm with you, Mad. I feel like Saku is going to perform a little bit better in this situation than Valash.
Yeah.
Just because, like, the Valash gets eaten by both of these Tims really bad, too. All right, we are jumping into Markin LP versus Alvar, Game 2 of this opening quarterfinals match of Temporium Weekly number 11. What do you think we're going to see, Mad Stats, in turn 1?
So, I'm still like a little confused why Markin got his Madrid in the first rotation. So I think there's got to be a plan for it because, like, I mean, there's some danger here for him, and yeah, he swaps it out.
Markin swapping out the Madrid for the Calibus. Grandpa with the wind burst onto that slot, dealing heavy damage to that Calibus. Tataru with the perfect jab onto the Grandpa, just weakening it up. And Volcrane with a stone ball onto the Calibus. Such a strong move from such a strong attacker, but not dealing much damage as Calibus is a tanky monster.
Yeah, and I mean, probably the Grandpa Windblade like wasn't even a prediction. He just wanted like to get the Windblade off, attack Madrid here, and yeah, maybe get the kill even with the stone ball, but didn't work out the way. Still did a good amount of damage to Calibus, so I think Alvar's not too unhappy with how this turn unfolded.
Yeah, and that stone ball and Windblade covered pretty much everything that Markin could swap in there, just making that slot dangerous. Yeah. Right now, that Calibus being threatened out, though, by Grandpa's Hyperkinetic Strike is online. Tataru has to do something here to help give the rest of Markin LP's team some breathing. The Volcrane swapping out, Saku coming in to occupy that slot, and Grandpa with the Hyperkinetic Strike going on to the Calibus. It's on buff, but it's still so much damage as it's a special attack. The Calibus barely living it. Whip Bump with the Major Slash onto the Grandpa is going to deal huge amounts of damage, and Calibus with the Toxic Ink onto the Grandpa is enough to finish it off. With turn 2, Markin picking up the first kill of this game, or the first knockout onto Alvar's Grandpa.
Yeah, I think Alvar got a little bit baited into the idea with the Hyperkinetic Strike on Calibus.
Yeah, the Calibus lived that regardless, but then having your tank lose that much HP this early, we'll see if it was worth. Yeah, we will see.
It's the second time his Grandpa like dies before it actually like gets to a point where it's like really annoying. So it's really unfortunate for Alvar because like Grandpa is like he's a threat in itself with the Hyperkinetic, but he's also like with the Hypnosis, he can control the pace of the game so freaking good.
Calibus swapping out for Markin LP. Mastion coming in, looking at this Calibus Saku. It's such a scary swap. Saku with the Tornado onto the Mastion slot, going to bring it down, dealing 60% of its HP. Tataru with a perfect jab onto the Calibus. I am questioning Markin's decisions here, but this man knows this game as Calibus strangles onto the Mastion.
I mean, it was a risky pick here, and I mean, it got hurt, and it's now strangled as well, so it's not going to be able to do something the next turn. So, probably the spot you want to do Mastion in, I think.
Tataru with another perfect jab onto the Calibus. This Calibus doesn't have much defense left, and a rushel on the Tataru from the Saku. The Mastion unable to attack due to the effects of Strangle. The Calibus unable to attack due to the effects of Strangle. We will see what these Tims do this turn as the Saku has Tornado back online. A priority 3 move.
Should definitely be faster than Mastion, so Markin needs to swap here. But, I mean, his options that he could put in are also not, like, the best. I mean, his Crystal Temps will still get hurt, and his Calibus will, like, for sure die to the Tornado. So this is difficult for him now. I'm really interested to see how he's going to maneuver out of that, or trying to maneuver out of that.
I'm wondering if it's worth throwing away the Calibus here for another Strangle from the enemy Calibus. Because that Calibus has to swap out here with those -2 stages of defense, and just as much as we fear that Tornado from Saku, Tataru has Major Slash online, 150 base damage. Stab brings that up to 225 damage. 2 stages of defense down. The Calibus stays in and takes the Major Slash, but it's so physically defensive. It lives with 31%. The Saku with the Tornado, it dealt 60% damage before. The Mastion is down. The Saku taking that kill, overexerting to do so. Toxic Ink from the Calibus, but the Tataru is already poisoned, and it's not going to do much of anything against the Tataru.
And I think Markin now putting in the Valash, but like Alva's definitely in a better position, even though he lost his first time earlier than Markin. Markin has already Taylor really low, Calibus really low, and for Alva his Saku is still full life, his Yukama is still full life, Vulcan is still full life. There's only Calibus being a little low, but it's not that much in danger right now as well. Like, I mean, there could be an instant Crystal Spikes that might kill it, but still, he did a great job already.
Yeah, I think Alvar has been playing phenomenal this game. My question on those perfect jabs was the viability of them, as like Calibus is so physically defensive. At that point, rather than jabbing twice in it, I feel like it's more effective to swap in all of these great special attackers Markin has and just start hitting it with crystal spikes and forcing that Calibus out. Like, 2 crystal spikes would have the Calibus exactly where it's at now.
Yeah, definitely questionable move, but I think he hoped for a little more damage here from the Major Slash, and it just didn't work out.
The Tataru swapping out for Madrid as it enters the spot. Saku swapping out on Alvar's side, and Volcrane swapping in instead. The Valash with a Madness buff is going to get its special attack and special defense up. Calibus, knowing that it was going for that Greedy Madness buff, is going to get the Strangle off.
Yeah, and now we are in the situation again where he has to swap out the Valash because Stoneball would probably kill it. Yeah, and it happened.
The Valash swapping out for Markin LP, the Tataru swapping in, Volcrane swapping out, and Saku swapping in. The Madrid with Dust Vortex onto that Saku slot. Alvar with the read is going to be able to have the Saku tank that. The poison killing the Tataru, and the Madrid is now strangled. Now the Valash is back. Madness buff is up. It is not strangled.
And it won't be strangled. That's the good news as well, because strangle is already used on Madrid, so it is finally able to do something now. I actually really like the swap with the Tater because it was dead anyway, and maybe would have eaten in a Stonewall, but Elva also had a good read here and didn't Stonewall basically into.
Crystal Spikes onto the Calibus is going to free up this Madrid from the Strangle Madrid with the Mud Shower onto only going to do a little bit of damage. Irrushal onto the onto the Valash, but did that deal less than 3%?
That definitely didn't do anything, and without Calibus, no toxic takes applied, so that didn't do anything for Alva here. And now Markin actually still has a good chance here with the Valash on the field buffed to like still turn this game around.
Yeah, and this Valash right here, the Scavenger, we will see how Scavenger gets rolling as Madrid and Valash are on the field for Markin. 3 Tims to 3 Tims, 1 game up in Alvar's favor in this quarterfinal match. Valash with the Crystal Spikes onto Ukama. It deals so much damage. Madrid with the Dust Vortex onto the Ukama, but the Ukama's water, and it's going to be able to tank that really well. Ukama with the water cannon responding onto the Madrid. The Madrid just barely living that. Saku with a priority tornado onto the Madrid slot 2, and the Madrid is going to be out of the game as Saku's air specialist is going to be enough to kill him. But Saku overexerting to get that kill. Calibus swapping in. And this is what you hate to see. The air specialist Saku is the only thing that can keep this Calibus down right now. If the Calibus gets a water move off on the Volcrane on the back, it's out of here. If it gets a strangle onto the Saku's not doing anything. The Ukama with the turbo choreography, the Valash with a crystal dust is going to end that Ukama's life, and Calibus with the toxic ink onto the Saku, not even going for the strangle, saving its ability to get a water move off. But that turbo choreography, is it going to be enough to let the Saku outspeed this Valash? I'm speechless. I'm speechless, man.
I was really confused like 2 turns, like the turn before, why Madrid didn't use Crystal Dust on Yukama, because I think that might have actually killed it. But still, Markin's now in a really good spot if his Calibus, like if Valash is faster here and can kill Saku. Like that's the big question. Who's gonna be faster? That could potentially turn that game into the player's direction.
Yeah, and I do want to mention, I'm pretty sure this Volcrane has Ninja Jutsu online, as most players who run Volcrane decide to run with Ninja Jutsu rather than Extinction. So we could see a surprise factor here, but it's really going to be on this this priority Tornado versus priority Crystal Spikes from Valash, and the Tornado goes first onto the Calibus. The Air Specialist is going to take it out. The Saku is down. Markin LP with the Ninja Jutsu onto the Volcrane, but it's not going to be a much against that physically defensive Volcrane. Volcrane with the Ninja Jutsu back onto the Valash as they tickle each other. Unfortunately, though, the Volcrane's got stamina. A Stone Ball mops up the Volcrane. And that is going to be game 2 going to Alver. And
Fury is going to Alver as well.
Yeah, and Alver moving on to the semifinals there. What a game, what a set.
Yeah, and like, I mean, unlucky, like, for Markin, his Ninja Jutsu was still slower than a Tornado from Saku. I guess the Ninja Jutsu was definitely meant for Saku and not for Volcrane. But since it's already died, it attacked the Volcrane, he overexerted completely, and yeah, from there on it was over, because Saku was faster thanks to the turbo choreography.
Yeah, and that Ukama giving its life so that Saku could scratch the headband and clutch out the victory.
He died for the greater good.
Yes, and so we'll get to see Alver play more into this match. Looking at our next set of semifinals, it's going to be Fajik versus Alver. As we're still waiting on the other part of our bracket, both Uwakazi and Dumaga are playing their games with Uwakazi up 1 set, and Tide versus Kirzara still playing their game. I'm tuning in currently to the Tide versus Kirzara game, and I can provide like a little bit of commentary on that as we wait to see how the rest of these brackets are going to turn out.
I'm going to tune in there as well.
Yeah. And I just want to say shout out to everybody jumping into the chat. And we are playing the Temporium Weekly number 10. And Dan, on that, I'm not 100% certain. Yes, I am. All right. So we are going to keep casting the rest of these games. And this opening turn, we have the Ukama for Tide swapping out Barnshi, swapping in to take its place, and we are going to have the Mastion swapping out and Saku swapping back in. This format really leads to Raid Boss Saku with the Crystal Spikes from the mix onto the Calibus, dealing great amounts of damage. The Calibus with the Toxic Ink onto the Barnshi, but the Barnshi has Air Specialist and it is going to get poisoned.
And Banshee, that's a Tem I didn't see in a long time. It's so cool to see so many different Tems in here without the Fantastic Four being there. But damn, Banshee ate a lot of damage, so he has to be like a really offensive TV setup, I guess. Gonna see that if he tries to attack Calibus here. But I think for Kizaru there's a swap coming up if he wants to save his Calibus.
Yeah, and I want to say shout out on the stream. Thank you, Arc1221 for the Twitch sub. We can get some hypes going in the chat for that. Looking at this board state though, Matt, what do you think we're going to see here from the Saku and this Calibus?
Yeah, so I said I expect the Calibus to swap out. Like that would be like the most sensible here, because Banshee should have something up the sleeve, maybe Tornado or something to like deal with the Calibus, so it would be like really dangerous to let it stay. still though, like, I mean, Kizawa could also just decide to go on to that Banshee and finish it off. That's also an option he could take, but yeah, if he wants to play it safe, he just should swap out the Calibus here.
Yeah, the mix is going to use a cage here. That Calibus is not going anywhere. Banshee with Hypoxia onto the Calibus. That air specialist, that when typing, that when weakness, the Calibus is out of here. Even with the coat, the Saku with the tornado onto the mix. We'll see how much damage that does. Is it deals 55%. The mix's Puppet Master is not online yet. And the Banshee lives. The Balrog comes in. This mix is caged. It is not looking great right now for it. However, there's a pretty nice play from Tide.
Yeah, and I mean, the tornado put it in a really good spot. Like, Mission should definitely be able to finish it off here. So, I mean, okay, he won't probably have Meteor Swarm, so maybe an Embers might not be enough. We will see that. But still, there's the option. There's the hope that it might kill Mix here and put Kizawa back into this game.
Yeah, this field just looking very terrifying for both of these Tems, as the Saku was able to deal enough damage to the Banshee that I believe the Banshee with the Wind Burst is going to put the mix into Puppet Master mode. It can't be targeted. The Embers onto the Banshee, and the Saku, what did it decide to do? It's going to be up to the Saku on if it can, on if it Lifeful Sap. It Lifeful Sap. It cannot. The mix cannot be targeted this turn. Tied with the cosmic level brain play. The greedy Saku Life Sap means that this mix is going to have Puppet Master for the rest of this game, so long as it avoids tsunamis and meteor swarms.
Oh my god, I'm smiling over the whole face right now, like, because I'm so impressed with that play. Oh my god, that was great.
What?
Just mix here.
What a play, activating your own Puppet Master.
Wow, that's genius. Like, if this mix does something big in this game now, I mean, holy, that was a great play by Tide then.
Like, cosmic level brain.
Yeah.
The only thing that's really terrifying right here is Mastion often runs cage. But if the Mastion cage is right here, the Ukama can kill it. So Tide's put themselves in a really good spot. But this mix needs to get out of here.
Yeah, it does. It does want to have the Meteor Swarm in its face. So Tide definitely got a swap here. I mean, he could take the risk. We don't know what happened, like, in the first game. I guess that's probably the second or third game they're playing here. Maybe he already knows that there is the chance that he knows that Massion has cage. Maybe because I already used it in the game before. So he might also be able to, like, go full danger here. Just let it stay. Maybe attack Saku. I mean, stamina's pretty low, so just let it chill and let Ukama deal with Mastion anyway. Oh.
The Mastion swapping out for Kizawa. And we are seeing a mix of its own swap in to take that slot. Ukama with the water cannon onto that mix is going to bring it into 64% damage. Not going to be enough to activate that Puppet Master yet. Ukama surviving the tornado, the Saku overexerting as it does so. And Tide just resting up that mix for this turn.
Really interesting that he chose to put Mastion off the field here. I mean, sure, there was a danger of Ukama, but, like, he pulling out Mastion and Tide actually letting Mix stay on, like, that's alpha, dude. That's like, nope, I know that you will be fast enough to do anything to my Mix, so...
Yeah, and I just want to respond to a question in chat, Soren. Yes, Puppet Master does work on switch-in. If you switch in a mix that has Puppet Master active to a slot that's getting doubled up in, it will push both attacks to the other slot.
Yeah, basically as soon as the time is on the field, the trade activates.
Ukama swapping out for Tide. Mashuk swapping in instead. We will see if this was red, but it is not. The mix attacks in with crystal spikes, but the Mashuk tanking that so well. Tide's mix responding with the crystal spikes of its own, killing the mix outright, overexerting in the process, and the Saku resting because it overexerted last turn. And Tide just essentially taking a free turn there as the Mastion swaps back in. The mix is overexerted and it can't do anything this turn.
And now the Mastion is in a way better spot than before because Sukama's not on the field to threaten it. So this time around he will probably choose to do the Meteor Swarm, or if he has a cage, do the cage to make sure he definitely gets mix in the following turn. And I mean, he also has a good answer to Mashuk, and like the swap options are not that great. Like Ukama would eat a lot of damage and is already pretty low, and Nid, it's also effective against Nidrasil, so Tide
It's always so difficult when you're running a mix and you don't put Sweatband on that mix. Because mix with Puppet Master just stays out for so long and its moves cost so much stamina that without that Sweatband, it's just hard to keep it going. The Mashuk with a perfect jab onto the Saku, lowering its defense. Saku responding with the Tornado. The Saku is an overexerting monster as it overexerts again. The Mashuk being dropped so low, the mix staying in for the Meteor Swarm, and the Mastion picks up both kills. The Pyromaniac, the Fire Chip, the mix is dead, the Mashuk is dead, and Tide is down to their last two Tims.
And here they are. Interesting again that he just let the mix stay on there. I mean, he basically took the death here like for sure, because he could have swapped something in and it maybe won't have died, but still he knows that the Meteor Swarm would come in here, right? So he knew that his mix would be dying here, but now he's in a position. Oh, that's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to maneuver out of this one.
Yeah, that
positive
go ahead.
note, there are still like 2 fire attempts, right? So Ukama can deal with Vulcane and with Bastion, so he can just attack in that spot.
Yeah, Ukama says, screw you, I'm attacking into both slots as it tsunamis and knocks the Mastion out. Toxic Ink from the Nidrasil onto the Saku. The Saku has to rest this turn, and that is not going to be enough to kill it. The Volcrane comes out. Ukama's got Aquatic Whirlwind online. Is the Saku's Tornado with Air Specialist going to be enough to kill this Ukama? Or is the Ukama going to outspeed the Volcrane? I've been watching this match since the start of it. The Volcrane, I don't believe, has been out on the field at all. It is not going to have Ninja Jutsu online if he is running that, which means it's going to take 4x damage from the special attack Aquatic Whirlwind. Volcrane is a physical defensive Tim, and that special attack is going to tear it apart at 4x damage. The Saku with the Tornado does not outspeed the Aquatic Whirlwind. The Ukama dead to the Tornado, and that is going to be it. But I believe the Saku just overexerted for a third time in a row, and the victory is going to go to Tade.
What a game.
What a game. All right, you saw it here first, everybody. Attack your own mixes.
Yeah,
That's how you play Temtem.
I mean, it's cool though that mix is also prevalent with many teams here, because like with Valorant being out, being one of the Fantastic Four, like you had to basically ban Valorant if you wanted to play a mix, right? Because you always would have to deal with a Toxic Plume if it's like an anaerobic one. So seeing mixes now again is pretty funny, and seeing like what people can actually do with them. And yeah, that was a cool play, and Tide won the game in the end, so it worked.
It worked. It worked, and that is what you have to do to move forward into these tournaments. I'm not seeing a score reported for Tide versus Kazara, so since we've been streaming that, I'll check in on them again, and might as well see if these two players take it to a Game 3 grudge match.
Yeah,
all right, and go ahead.
Yeah, I was just looking if they're already up, but it says 1-1, so they should.
Okay.
Last game.
Yeah, and just updating everybody on the rest of the brackets for the 2-1 tied. Okay, and 1 game Kazara. So tied took that set.
Oh, okay.
Updating everybody on the rest of the brackets, the final match we are waiting on is Uwakazi versus Dumaga. And that is currently in a 1-1 score. So whoever wins this will be moving on to the semifinals. And whoever loses will be out of the tournament. I am jumping in now to spectate Dumaga, and I'll try and update everybody on the match. As it looks like, Ukama's on the field, and it looks like Uwakazi has the tempo, as it's 4 Tims to 3 Tims in Uwakazi's favor.
Man, a Taifu, that's so cool.
Yeah, again, just like that area of where would you see a Taifu without the Fantastic Four band? Whiplump switching in for Dumaga. For anybody just tuning in today, this is the Temporium Weekly, number 11. The Fantastic Four are all banned. In this tournament, you will see no S-tier Tims. There is no Kinu. There's no Gaialis. There is no Pigapek, and there is no Volarin. With those Tims banned out, you're going to see some wild and crazy team comps today as Uwakazi switches out the Taifu and Barnshi comes in for that slot. Ukama on Dumaga's side with the turbo choreography, synergizing with the Whiplump for 2x speed. Crystal spikes from the Valash, and that is going to hit into the Whiplump but not deal much damage. A cold breeze onto the Valash is going to chill it, and that is going to put it in range to be frozen next turn.
I like the name here from Kaza. Like, is this a reference to anything? I'm not sure.
Well, I've shoutcasted this Tamer's turn or games before. All of their names are, I think, of like some Chinese inspiration of Lao Lian Kai. But the Tubine swapping in on Dumaga's side of the field, Uwakazi swapping in Calibus, Whiplump with the Tsunami, not letting that Valash get frozen, not giving Dumaga any free turns. 1 stack of cold going to go off onto the Calibus, and the Barnshi is running neutrality with relaxes and puts all of the Tims on the field to sleep. But thanks to the Barnshi's neutrality, it does not get cold stacks and it does not get put to sleep.
Yeah, really interesting to see that trade here. I mean, it sometimes now is a little weird. You got to be careful, like with the positive effects as well, like Bamboozle, for example. But yeah, that saves him here. I mean, he loses a little bit of damage, right, if he had the other trade, but still, good for him here, definitely in this one moment.
Uwakazi swapping out that Calibus, swapping in Valash. Not going to have to worry about this 1 stack of cold on it as all the Tims are sleeping. A Bamboozle from the Barnshi onto the Valash is going to give it 1 turn of freedom as it cannot be affected by 1 move. But you know what? If you double up into it, Bamboozle looking a lot less appealing.
Yep, and Whiplump probably will be faster than Tuvine, so the attack that would hurt more, a normal attack from Tuvine here, would hit the Valash for sure.
Yeah, and if we press X, we can see that Valash does not have Madness buff up yet. Valash, a very good special attacker, but without that Madness buff, it's just going to lack that killing power. As we saw, its Crystal Spikes earlier did about 33% damage to the Whiplump, meaning it will need at least 2 more of those to get this Whiplump out of here. Even with that Bamboozle, not going to be super threatening against the side of the field. Same thing with that Barnshi, without Air Specialist, not going to be a huge threat. So we'll see how Dumaga takes advantage of this. Uwakaza swapping out the Barnshi, Zuzu, the Taifu, swapping in, taking that slot. Tuvine on Dumaga's side of the field, recognizing that he has a little bit of wiggle room, swaps out the Tuvine, brings in the Ukama, Whiplump with the sharp brains, going onto the Taifu slot. Even though with the half damage, the Taifu's so low that that's going to be enough to kill it. The Taifu is dead. The Toxic Farewell goes off. The Whiplump has 3 stacks of poison. The Valash puts itself online with a Madness buff as it loses 25% of its HP, but gains a whole bunch of special attack and a bunch of special defense against 2 special attackers.
Yeah, that's definitely a situation you want to be in, Valash. Caleb is coming back out here for Kaza. And, I mean, he could just attack, like, the Bloom spot, because Tuvain could come in there as well, but Tuvain has not a lot of special defense, so he would be threatened with a Crystal Spikes kill as well. So yeah, if Dumaga doesn't figure out like how he is faster and kills the Valash off, he's gonna have a lot of trouble. I think that might be the game then if he gets Whiplump or Tuvain here.
Yeah, it's one of those scary situations if you need to freeze this Valash. Ukama with the Aquatic Whirlwind onto the Valash, dealing lots of damage even through those special defenses. And Whiplump with the Tornado onto the Valash. Not going to be enough to take it out, as the Valash responds with the Crystal Spikes onto the Whiplump. And we can say, see you later, Whiplump! As the Whiplump's knocked out, the Scavenger proccing on the Valash, and the Toxic Ink from the Calibus onto the Ukama, going to deal a good amount of damage, as it's double damage against Water Thames, and the Tuvain swapping in.
So Valash is like really low on stamina, but if I've seen everything right, he didn't overexert, so he will be able to put out another Crystal Spikes. And another Toxic Ink from Calibus should also kill off Ukama.
Yeah, Valash taking a Water Cannon from Ukama, surviving it. Crystal Spikes going off on the Tuvain, killing the Tuvain. The Valash Scavenger proccing again, but the Valash overexerting to do so, left with 1% HP. The Ukama taking so much damage from the Toxic Ink, not getting any move off, and dying to the Poison Ticks. As Uwakazi takes that set and moves on to the semifinals. Dumaga, playing his heart out, is not going to move on. What a set of games.
Yep, most definitely. And the Valash, even though like he still took a lot of damage from the Ukama and the Whiplump, but still like with having +2 special defense, it's just too tanky. And as long as it survives somehow and can get off another Scavenger and another Scavenger and another Scavenger, he's fine.
And another one. And another one. And another one.
DJ, call it.
DJ Valash.
That's the actual right nickname for Valash.
All right, we are moving on into our semifinals. Mad, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I don't even think we need a break before these matches.
I'm fine as well. I mean, I could get me another drink, but I still have enough, so I'm fine.
All right, everybody, let's get some hypes flowing in the chat as we get ready to go into the semifinals of this match. I'm not taking a break. I'm just gonna say, Dan, right now, message Havoc, get this next match going. Let's go. For everybody else who's just tuning in right now, again, I want to say you're watching the Temporium Weekly Tournament number 11. This is the Fantastic Four band. All of the matches you are seeing, there's no Pigapek, no Kinu, no Gaialis, no Volarin. All the top tier Tims are banned out. And that is going to make these teams have forced to bring in a variety of wide-stretching Tims, which gives us wide-stretching strategies, crazy plays, and as always, we bring you the best Temtem action in the Temporium community. If you want to join our community, you want to keep up with these tournaments, and you want to play in some of them in the future, you can type !Discord, and you can get the link to our Discord, and you can join in any tournament that we run. I believe we did up the entry fee for this tournament, up from 5K to 10K, effectively doubling the prize pool, as competitive Temtem is such a good way to make money, especially if you can bring your cosmic level brain plays to the battlefield and win out a spot in the top 3 of these tournaments.
Yeah, just bring your mix into Puppet Master. I'm still amazed. Like I look like a little child who was in the candy store for the first time when I've seen that play. I was like so happy when I've seen that. That was so cool.
All right. Are we going to be casting Alvar's game or Tide's game? Do you know, Dan? Okay, cool. We're going to be casting Tide's game as soon as it starts. So everybody watching, we are going to be moving into the semifinals. And it is going to be Tide versus Uwakazi. In this set, what do you think we're going to see here, Mad?
Galaxy Big Brain plays by Tide.
Galaxy Big Brain plays. Yep.
That's all I want to see.
It's hard not to get the hype going. It's hard not to get the hype going for Tide because it's like seeing him perform so well last night in Plus OP's tournament. Not to mention, how well he's been doing here today. In general, Tide is mopping up and fighting his way through these brackets. And that is not to discount Uakazi at all, as Uakazi, I've seen them compete in lots of tournaments, bringing some pretty interesting strategies. How long has it been since we've seen a relaxed Barnshee on a team with that neutrality trait of just, it gives you a lot of freedom and a lot of flexibility to play around aggressive Tims.
Yeah. It's just, as I said, it's so cool to see the different Tems, like, have different flavors to all the comms, like, not seeing, like, I mean, when a Fantastic Four in there, like, let's say 90% of players at least have 3 of them in their squad, like, all the time. And that already takes basically up half your team every time, so naturally it's not too interesting to see, or like you don't see so many variations, right?
Yeah, and I can agree to that on some extent. I don't think, and I've had a lot of thoughts about the Fantastic Four as far as like banning them or allowing them. I think there's some Tims like Kinu that really enable some of these lower tier Tims that we don't see often to become viable.
Yeah.
Some Tims that are in very difficult situations. Protector buff is such, and that's Kinu's ability whenever it swaps in. It increases the defense of the other Tim on the field. And when you have that on a Tim, it allows some of these like weaker, more fragile Tims to come to the field to have, big epic plays. It's just when you find an optimized route for all of these like great Tims, that's when the games kind of get stale rather than using them in the positions that benefit you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like, I think I would still be like fine with probably like when I had to like choose one of these 4 Tems, which I would be fine with to like still have in there, it probably would be Kino, just because it offers the most interesting like to the table, like it's the most interesting one from those 3, and it's also not too hard to deal with. Like a good crystal attack will almost every time like take it out pretty instantly, so it's good to deal with, right? But there's like nothing else to pick or Valorant.
Yeah, I've always felt like Kinu is a really great Tim and really balanced in that, it swaps in. A Crystal Spikes, Crystal Bite takes out Kinu. It's out of here. But even more so, there's so many more Tims in the meta that are consistently brought that do a great job of countering Kinu. Everything that runs Toxic Ink, like Saipat, Calibus, that you see so much. Both of those, and Voleran's one of the Fantastic Four, have always had great answers with their toxic damage to Kinu. So it's like one of those that it sucks that it did get banned out, but we are seeing some ultra cool teams. So no doubt if Kinu was allowed in this tournament, everybody would be running one.
Yeah, for sure.
One of my favorite things, though, about the design of Kinu is that it has, and I talked about this with Blue Sapphire on stream last night, it has access...
Kennedy.
Oh, okay, let's jump into it. I've been clicking on my screen, but it's like, I guess I just missed the start of the game. All right, everybody, we are jumping into the first game of our semifinals. Tide versus Uakazi. Tide is going to be on the yellow side, and Uakazi on the blue side. For first ban, going to Uakazi is banning out Tide's mix. Tide banning out the Whip Lump on Uakazi's side, and Tide picking up Mastion.
Whiplum seems to be like the new Gael is like without the top part. It's banned a lot of times, like that's what we've seen at least here in the KO.
Yeah, Whiplum's such a monster. Nobody runs a Kazuma to get rid of it, and it has very good typing. Not a lot of like super great Noxious Bomb users other than Tataroon, so if you're not using one, gotta find some type of answer to it.
I mean, the Toxic Ink would work as well, right? Like at least a little bit.
Yeah, the problem is Whiplum puts out so much wind damage that bringing a Toxic to try and counter it is, terrifying.
Yeah, it's dangerous, but like, you gotta find a way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta put yourself in danger for that.
As our senpai Goku says, if there's a will, there is a way. We're going to see Uekazi picking up Calibus and Mix on their side, Tide picking up Taifu on his side, and moving forward into the next ban. Tide bans out Ouroboros. It is currently Uekazi's ban, as Uekazi is shuffling through all of these Tims, trying to find the right one that leads him to the path of victory.
I see the pre-cast talks you had are still showing its color for you, Kennedy.
And Valash picked up for Uekazi as Uekazi bans out Nidrasil. Mashuk and Platimus picked up for Tide. Barnshi for Uekazi as Uekazi looks for the last thing to round out their team, hovering that Volcrane pick. Opting to go with the Volcrane, and Tide bringing the Ukama as their final pick. All right, we are getting into game 1 of our semifinals. Tide versus Uekazi. Mad, hit him with them analytics for the turn 1.
So first of all, I'm happy we are watching the game where there's no Madrid in it, so I'm not tempted to say Mudrid. Other than that, I mean, Bastion is in a good spot to deal damage to the Mix on one side, but on the other side, there's still the Calibus who can deal damage to him, but I think he needs to, like, his water attack is a hold move, so he might be able to just let it stay on here. But his swap options against Calibus are all fine, like they wouldn't be hurt too much except for Ukama. So I expect him to stay here. Interestingly enough, I want to see... Oh, okay. Then I'm wrong.
The Bastion swapping out for Tide. Platimus swapping in, staring down these two Tims. Water Cutting Lily coming out from the Taifu as it just looks so happy and so cute with these shards of death. Cutting into Mix, taking it to 52%. The Puppet Master is not online. Crystal Spikes is a response onto the Taifu, taking it down to 52%. And also the Toxic Ink coming out from Calibus, knocking out that Taifu in the Toxic Farewell. Not saying farewell, or not putting any Toxic stacks onto the Calibus. The Bastion swapping in here, staring down this Mix.
Oh, that's so unlucky. You wanted to trigger like the synergy here, and then gets instantly like hit for that, and not even gets off the Toxic Farewell. The poor man's Fainted Curse not even working this time around.
Yeah, that Fainted Curse not going off, and I'm wondering what type of ideas here Tide has, swapping in this Bastion, staring down a Mix and a Calibus. The Bastion has the option of killing the Mix, but the Mix is definitely swapping out. The Bastion can run Cage, but then it just dies to the Calibus.
It's in too much danger. Like he might even like just swap it back. He maybe just want to force off the Mix and swap back to something else. But that's like where you like, I mean, he can't pull off the Big Bang Galaxy play and hit the Mix because Calibus is so.
The Mix swapping out Barnshi, swapping in Noxious Bomb from the Platimus, attacking onto that Calibus, not dealing much of any damage to the Toxic type. Embers coming out from the Bastion, the Pyromaniac, and the Pyro Chip, causing that Barnshi to take 40% of its HP. The Strangle coming out from Calibus is going to strangle that Platimus.
Interesting choice here to strangle the Platimus, but okay, Bastion like won't be able to deal too much damage to both of these, and now the thing now is though he can't attack with the Calibus, so Bastion is not in danger. He can just stay and attack here, so that play is definitely a little bit questionable because now Bastion is basically free to still attack. But yeah,
the Platimus switching out Ukama, swapping in Windburst from the Barnshi onto the Ukama. The Barnshi is not running Air Specialist. Another Embers onto the Barnshi is going to bring it down to 20%. Toxic Ink from the Calibus onto the Ukama slot is going to put 2 stacks of poison on it, but the Ukama's running Tukma Mass, and that is not going to be enough to kill it. as the Ukama survives.
And smart move to get out the Platymus so it doesn't get hit with the wind attack. On the other side, also good by Ukazu to just expect the Strangle to break off here. I mean, Toxic wouldn't have done too much to Mashuk, but like any other attack Calvis put off out wouldn't have done anything to it anyway. And if the Mashuk comes in, it still eats the damage from the
the Banshee swapping out here as Mix swaps in. Ukama with the Aquatic Whirlwind. What slot did it target? It targeted the Mix's slot. It's going to be enough to kill it. The Puppet Master doesn't trigger. The Hydrologist chipping in that extra damage. The Meteor Swarm coming out from Mastion, not going to hit much of anything. Maybe expecting that to be a Puppet Master Mix in that slot. Strangle onto the Ukama. Lives another turn. So, if I was the Ukama, I would be using those fins to dab right now.
But also like a great prediction overall here coming in. Like the Meteor Swarm would have taken out the Mix as well, so good play.
This is a scary situation because the Banshee is back. If the Banshee dies, Tide's team runs away with this game.
Yeah, because Plat and Mashuk are free to enter the stage stand without any danger coming out.
The Calibus swaps out for Uakazi. Valash comes in. Ukama is no longer strangled. Tsunami goes off. It's going to hit both slots no matter what. The Banshee is dead. If the Mastion clicked Embers onto the Valash. The Valash loses almost all of its HP from the Pyromaniac Fire Chip combo, down to 12% on its first turn of life. The Ukama has Aquatic Whirlwind on deck to challenge whatever Crystal Spikes this thing tries to pull out. The Calibus is back. I'm terrified, Mad. I am terrified.
This Valash is done. This Valash is absolutely done. And like, just putting out a water attack here from Ukama would be so smart because he should be the fastest, and it would hurt Woodcrane as well if it would come in, but it doesn't.
The Aquatic Whirlwind onto the Valash. That is going to be enough to kill the Valash. The Ukama still alive! As the Calibus strangles the Ukama. The Ukama is dead. The Mastion rests. The Volcrane comes out on Uakaza's side, but there's still a Mashuk on deck for Tide. There's still a Platypus on deck for Tide. What does he have to deal with the rest of Tide's team? I mean, these are his last two Tims.
This is so good. Platypus will deal with Vulcrane. There's no chance for Ukazi, and yeah, he knows that. He surrenders.
Game 1 of the semifinals going to Tide. What a heck of a game. What a heck of a game there. Questionable openers from Tide, but just like you said, yeah, the Cosmic Brain strategy with those unorthodox plays, getting rid of that Banshee, even trading 2 Tims to do so, meant that both of his Toxic Tims were unchallenged.
I actually like I have such a good reference. Like I randomly got you know those random YouTube recommendations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like there was like a guy who streamed playing chess and like seemed to be also like a really good player, like a grandmaster or whatever. And he was like basically inviting his viewers to play him in chess and was like saying, yeah, I will win against all of you, right? And he basically got stream sniped by Magnus Carlsen, like the best chess player in the world. And like he lost that game like against Carlsen, and was like in the end he was like, yeah, I have like no idea, like either this guy is like completely mad or like he's an absolute genius. And, like, that's how I feel about Tyler right now, like after the games we've seen from him.
Yeah, like again, completely insane or yeah, absolute genius. Where I was questioning some plays too, and I would really like to know what Uakazi's thoughts were on switching that Banshee back in there instead of like the Volcrane, because the Banshee was the answer that game, but being unable to bring it out, we'll see if Uakazi can make adjustments going into Game 2 of our semifinals. Tide versus Uakazi. Tide is up 1 game First ban of the game goes to Tide. It's Tide is playing on blue side this time. Bans out Whiplump. And Uwakazi's ban is going to be on Mix. Uwakazi gets first pick. The unfortunate part of playing competitive Temtem, whoever's on blue side has to project their strategy first, and yellow side is going to be the one that is able to respond to it. If you see the way the picks and bans work out, blue's going to pick 2 Tims, and then yellow will have a chance to respond. Yellow makes a ban, blue makes a ban, then blue has to pick, and then yellow responds. Blue picks again, and then yellow gets the final counter pick. So normally you have to run your strong strategy that can go into most team comps while you're on blue side. Uwakazi, or rather Tide, really debating this, or Uwakazi really debating this first pick, opting to go with Mix.
Yeah, and as you said, like the counter pick is like worth so much in the end because you're like free to choose like one of 2 Temps, which like your opponent can't do anything about it, right? He just has to see what you pick and like deal with it then in the game.
Yes. It's really hard to find a good answer to it, other than like maybe swapping one final like pick order. But we'll see. Ranked mode still has a lot of updates to come to it. Krima, amazing at developing this game. We'll see what they choose to implement in the future with our feedback. Tide for his opening Tims, picking up Mastion and Taifu again. And Volcrane coming out from Uwakazi. Second ban for Uwakazi. Really debating this ban between the Nidrasil and the Barnshee again, going back and forth on it.
I mean, like maybe what like could work with pick and bans, like if you had to do like your picks at the same time, but this would also like take away a lot of like the strategy that goes into it, right?
That is fair. Debating this second ban for Tide, hovering the Adoraboros again, and the Barnshee, also a option. Getting that wind damage out of there gives freedom to Tide's Toxic Tims as Tide decides to go with the Barnshee ban and picking up his own Barnshee.
Welcome to the game.
Yeah, Uwakaza picking up Valash and Calibus. Mushuk and debating the Nitrocell pick and opting instead to go with the Ukama for Tide. And that final pick for Uwakaza being the Adoraboros. And we are getting into game 2 of this set. Tide is up 1 game of Tide versus Uwakazi.
I'm really interested to see like the Adoraboros getting maybe a chance to use the Psychic Collaborator with Mix being on the field. But yeah, Uwakazi gotta be careful like with these two that like they survive and actually can pull off the attack, because if Mix is not there, the attack is completely useless.
Taifu with Water Cutting Lily opening this game with a bang, just like it did before, straight onto this Mix. This Mix with the Crystal Spikes onto the Mastion slot instead of the Taifu. The Mastion responding with an Embers. The Mix is out of here. Turn 1. Turn 1. We are going to see what this Volcrane chooses to do. Is it Stoneballs the Mastion? The Mastion is dead. Did Tide need that Mastion to kill anything else on Uwakazi's turn? What a fast opening start to this game as both Tamers waste no time.
Damn, and like, wow, that's something that couldn't happen when we would have the Fantastic Four, and you're like seeing such fast turns, Thames dying in the first turn. That's cool.
And I want to shout out to something that was pointed out in chat. This Taifu is running Sweatband. It's just going to sit here and cast Water Cutting Lilies until someone decides to kill it. The Taifu with Cage says, "You're stuck in here with me." The Volcrane cannot get out. The water cannon comes out from the Ukama. The Ukama says goodbye to Volcrane. Turn 2, 3 Tims dead. What are you gonna do? Toxic Ink from Adoraboros onto the Taifu. The Taifu is living it. It's living its best life with this sweat fan. It's gonna throw out another water cuddling lily. What is this game?
This is what is this? This is so fast. Is this game over before turn 10 even happens? Crazy. I love
can
it.
we get some Monka S and Monka W's in chat? Cat W for this Taifu. Just taking it.
Boss.
You cut out a bit for me, Mad, but I got the gist of what you're saying. This is Boss Taifu.
Yeah.
Taifu with another water cuddling lilies. As long as it's got this sweat band, it can do what it wants. Throwing heavy damage onto the Calibus. Another Toxic Ink going on to the Adoraboros. Not going to be enough to take out the Taifu yet, but the poison will. The Toxic Ink from the Calibus onto the Ukama. It's going to put 2 stacks of poison onto it, and the Ukama Blizzard onto the Adoraboros, but it didn't do much of anything to the Adoraboros with all of its special defense, even with that super effectiveness. You don't ever want to see a Temtem like take a Temtem that is weak to a move that it's going to need at least 3 of those moves to kill it, especially if that move is a hold move. So that Adoraboros isn't horribly threatened by the Ukama, but guess what does threaten it? The Barnshee entering the field.
And I just want to put this out again. Like, we had 3 turns and we didn't have a turn yet where Tem didn't die, right? That's crazy. But like, I mean, okay, Taifu was dead. He was caged. He put up one more. Boss Taifu put up one more water cutting lily. Gave us his cool face while doing the attack. I love that animation. But also couldn't get his Toxic Farewell off in any useful way because both of these Tems are toxic types.
Shout out to FM-based Liam for the 2-month subscribed. Always great to have you. I believe that's our fearless leader right there.
He is.
Let's get the Comrade W in chat. As we stare down this field of Tide versus Uakazi here, Ukama's going with the water cannon onto the Calibus. Is going to deal next to 0 damage. The Hypoxia onto the Calibus, though, is going to be all that it needs to live on a sliver of HP. With 0.4%, the Calibus is living. The Adoraboros is beta bursting into the Barnshee, but the Barnshee's a mental type, and it's not going to deal that much damage to it with the Barnshee living. Another Toxic Ink into the Akama, and the Poison Mass is going to be enough to take that kill. Tide is down to their last 2 Tims. They have to find an answer to this Adoraboros if they want to stay in the rest of this game.
And we are still keeping it up. Every turn, there's gotta be a Tem dying. And also, I love how it was picture perfect with the Ukama, put it in on 12.5 and then Toxic Tick taking it out. Unlucky for Tide here that he couldn't get the Calibus though.
Uakazi recognizing that he needs his Adoraboros to live to win this game. The Valash coming in to take its spot. Windburst from the Barnshee, the Air Specialist, dealing 44% of its HP. But the Mashuk, instead of doubling into that slot, goes for the Calibus, kills the Calibus. The Calibus is down, and the Valash gets a Scavenger proc. But this is terrifying. The Mashuk super effective against the Valash. The Valash super effective against the Barnshee. The Barnshee super effective against the Adoraboros. The Adoraboros gets tornadoed at a priority, plus the Adoraboros is done. It is gone. The Air Specialist has ended it. What did this Valash decide to do with its Crystal Spikes as the Scavenger procs again? The Valash with the Crystal Spikes onto the Barnshee, but the Barnshee served its purpose as it's overexerted and out of stamina. The Barnshee is dead, and it is now Mashuk versus the Valash, as a uppercut deals nearly half of this Valash's HP. It takes at least 3 Crystal Spikes to kill a Mashuk. It's not going to be enough. as the crystal spikes only deal 30% of the Mashuk's HP. The uppercut brings the Balash down to 5%. This Balash has to find an answer right now, as it says, you won't take my life, I'll take my life. Tide winning 2 games up in the semifinals. Moving on to the finals.
Whoa,
You think it's big brain plays attacking your own mix? It's bigger brain plays losing your own set on your own terms. Cosmic level brain plays.
I won't give you that gratification.
Oh, wow. That was such a great set from Tide and really, really well played by Uwakazi.
It was over after 8 or 7 turns? Holy.
Who needs Temtem to live? Who needs him? I'm going to check in on the Alver game, but yes, like, I'm so excited that we get to cast another Tide game. I'm tuning into Alvers, and I'll give everybody the Alver versus Fajik, and I'll give everybody the rundown of this game as we get into it. But before we move on from that last game, any final things you want to say on it, Matt?
Taifu's a boss. I love him.
Yeah, chat was joking on Taifu Sweatband, but that's how you play mix. You know, you put it on the field and it deals crystal spike. It's the same way you play anaerobic Volarin. It deals damage every single turn, and you have to find an answer to it. Otherwise, it's just going to keep using Water Cutting Lily as much as you want to joke on it.
Yeah.
Getting into this game for Alver, Alver has opened up the start of this game pretty strong, killing a Volcrane outright with Grandpa and Saku both doubling into it with special wind damage, and the Volcrane not having the best special defense. The start of this game is going to be heavily in Alver's favor, as the Tataru has perfect jabbed a Saku, and just keeping that Saku's defenses down. But his Fajik is going to be on an uphill climb for the match.
Yeah, and also, if we can trust the info on Battlefy, Alver's up 1-0, so this should be the second match we've seen right now.
Yeah. The set Raiken swapping out to the field for Alver, or for Fajik, staring down the Saku. This is one of those situations where I feel like you throw caution to the wind and you don't really need your Saku, but it's always best not to throw away your Tims and use them later when they're more beneficial to you. Although looking at Alver's team, he's got a good swap on that Saku slot. Can swap to a Calibus and be perfectly fine. Alver swapping out the Calibus coming in. I'm just looking over at chat in the stream. Dan, could we get Alver versus Fajik up on stream? So the people can see it while we wait for the finals to start. All right, and we are in this match on, I think, turn 3. The Rise attacking into the Calibus, the Grandpa hypnosising the other Grandpa. Alver has a pretty commanding lead at the start of this game, and we will get a X on the screen as soon as possible so everybody can see what's going on.
Yeah, and also Calibus just took out whatever item Raiken had, I think, with its snare. Or did Grandpa like even attack before it was? Because no, I don't think so.
Yeah, for Alver, Grandpa swapping out, Mashuk swapping in, and Grandpa's sleeping. The embers from Raiken going onto the Mashuk, but Mashuk is a physical wall, taking that really well. Strangle from the Calibus onto the Grandpa. It's not going to be able to do anything this coming turn. And this Mashuk, with the help of Calibus, is going to have a free round to jab at this Raiken.
That's gonna be fun stuff. That's what you like to see. Still, even though Zack lost his Volcrane and is like 1 time down, all his other attempts are like still in a healthy state. The point for Alva though is his Grandpa and Saku got the speed buff up, and like this is the time like when we watched Alva like in the quarters, like he always lost his Grandpa pretty early without getting any buffs on it, and now he already got the speed buff on it, so it's a real threat now. So let's see how he uses it later on if he puts it back in. I'm really interested in that for that.
Yeah, Grandpa with a wind burst, but it's going to fail due to the effects of Strangle. Mashuk with your Russia Lull onto that Grandpa. 4 stacks of poison means 50% of its HP is going to be gone. Riken with another Embers just chipping away at this Mashuk, but the Mashuk takes 30% less physical damage, and that is not going to do much of anything to it. Just hoping to gain some type of ground inside of this game.
Yeah, and Alva could just decide to strangle Grandpa one more time, so he gets that 2% of its health off, so it definitely dies from the toxic ticks, and they'll just keep on attacking with Mashuk, or swap it up.
Yeah, Grandpa swapping in for Alver as Mashuk swaps out, Calibus swapping out for Alver too, as Saku swaps in here. We are going to see a wind burst from the Grandpa onto that Saku, and a Meteor Swarm from the Riken going down heavy on the team, throwing out lots and lots of damage, and that Saku is out of here. The Prideful buff on Riken, even though it's overexerted, is going to be an option to get it's going to be an option to get Fajik back into this game.
Yeah, this Riken can become an absolute threat.
And it can always the fear of letting a Riken get anything off with that or however, with that overexert though, this is one free turn for this Valash to come in and get some sneaky crystal off.
I mean, if Alva wants to be really greedy, he could also like hope that his Grandpa does enough damage so Sack's Grandpa dies from the toxic tick, and just pull off the madness buff and like get it strong, but that would be really greedy. And could also fire back.
The Riken swapping out for Fajik, Ukama swapping in, Kataru swapping in for Fajik too. Hyperkinetic strike from the Grandpa. What slot is it going on? Going on to that Ukama, but the Ukama is so physically defensive. The Grandpa's bully is not online. Crystal spikes from the Valash onto the Tataru. Deals over half of its HP. Oh, Tataru's got major slash online. Is it going to be enough to kill this Valash? The Valash has 1 stage of speed down. We will see.
And
we will see.
The Valash like isn't like even in a spot anywhere where it probably needs to madness buff to do enough damage. Like Grandpa, Tato, and Ukama like all are in a spot where like a double focus down on them would kill them off. So Alva could just go down that road and try to maybe get the scavenger off that way. Still, Ukama might be able to get Valash off the field just with one Aquatic Whirlwind, for example.
Yeah, one Aquatic Whirlwind, but is it going to be a swap or is it going to be an Aquatic Whirlwind? And it is a Aquatic Whirlwind onto the Grandpa. The Grandpa tanking that pretty well. Crystal spikes from the Valash outspeeding this Tataru as the Tataru goes down. The Scavenger proccing for Valash. Grandpa no longer poison on Fajik's side. That Grandpa likely living with 2 to 3% HP. Riken is back in.
1.8% for Grandpa here to survive in Sack's back. But now Alvar's got the option again to maybe go double down on the Ukama to kill it off to get a Scavenger. On the other hand, though, Riken is back and can be a big threat to Valash, so Alva's got to be careful here. Maybe bring out a Calibus again to play it safe, because he will be effective against Riken and Ukama, and I mean, the Grandpa, that pretty much deals with itself, right? As soon as he like gets any attack on it, it's dead.
It's really difficult because you have to double up into the Grandpa slot because a Hypnosis can change the tide of this game if you go for that Valash. But going for the Valash and swapping, the Calibus swap can come in on either of these 2 spots, and then this turn is completely nullified. So it's a lot of consideration that has to go. Fajik decides to swap out on his own, swaps for the Grandpa, and we will see Valash retreating for Alvar, expecting the double up on the Valash slot for swapping in that Calibus. No Hypnosis needed as a Hyperkinetic Strike comes down onto Ukama, and peace out Ukama as this bully is online for Alvar.
Yeah, and I mean, he's in a good spot to get rid of Grandpa, as I already said. I mean, still is like the possibilities there, but like, was Grandpa's faster, and we see that.
Grandpa faster, knocking out the enemy Grandpa with the wind burst. Another prideful buff for Riken, knocking out the Grandpa. But Calibus with a tsunami is going to lay down some heavy special damage with water onto that Riken. Calibus not having the best special attack isn't going to actually deal as much damage as you would hope one would. This Riken, two attack ups, facing down two physically defensive Tims, but brings down the special attack onto this Mashuk. The Fire Tornado, dealing so much damage, is going to bring the Mashuk really low, but the Urushalol is going to seal this Riken's fate. It can only throw out an attack every other turn with the Strangle, and that's it. Game 2 goes to Alvar, as Alvar moves on to the finals of the Temporium Weekly number 11.
Yeah, and I was, would have said, loved to say it, but I mean, the last two turns were so fast, I couldn't get in anymore, but like, you want the Mashuk on there, just use the Urushalol to like do a lot of damage to Riken, and then you have two tanks, which can just like outstand Riken anyway, like no matter how many prideful buffs it gets here.
Yes, and the speed of these games just has like my blood pumping, my heart thumping, like my chair is absolutely gripped. People may hear like a tapping ever so often of like moments where I grab my desk or I hit it of just like, oh my god. I'm loving this set. If you're just tuning in right now, we just finished our semifinals of the Temporium Weekly number 11, moving into our grand finals of this tournament. It is a Fantastic Four ban. There is no Kinu, no Gaialis, no Pigapek, and no Volarin in any of these games. All the Tamers are using really cool, really unique teams that they've had to come up with in the absence of these Temtem Titans that normally rule the meta scene. Moving into our finals, we are going to have Tide versus Vajik. Tide versus Alvar, as both of them have fought their way through this bracket. And one thing I want to say about these Tamers, Tide did drop a game to Kazawa in the quarterfinals, but Alvar went 2-0 and against Mark and LP, 2-0 against Vajik. A really, really strong showing moving into this final match.
Yeah, but what we've seen from both of these Tamers and like their teams, I really like both teams, but I also liked how they played. Like Tide with the Galaxy Big Brains play, Alva just overall like really solid gameplay, as he is known for. I mean, he's always like really good with all his swaps, with all his moves that he does, and yeah, I'm really happy to see that final get going.
Yeah, and I will completely agree with that. It's just been such a hype tournament to cast, and I have a live stream that I'm going to be doing later tonight, and I don't like who even needs a voice. I just want to shout at the top of my lungs for all of this like great Temtem action.
Just turn on your cam and do sign language.
You joke, but I do all my live streams with my camera on. I'm a beautiful mother flipper, as Dan told me earlier this week.
Oh, that's cute. I didn't know Dan could be that cute.
Sadly, it's almost like we can hear the voice of Dan.
Yeah, weird.
Anyways, we are waiting for our grand final match to get started of Tide versus Alvar.
And do we take a quick break, or are we just gonna keep going?
I am comfortable. I'm comfortable going. Dan, do you know if we're taking a break or if we're jumping right into the matches? I'm good.
Quick break.
Okay. Yeah, we'll take a quick break. Okay, we'll take a quick break and then we'll jump into these finals of this coming match. Stick around. We got more great Temtem action coming as we get into the grand finals. I'm Prez B. Kennedy, joined by Mad Stats, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Temporium Weekly, number 11. I'm Presby Kennedy, joined by Mad Stats as we get into these grand finals. Mad Stats, you want to tell the people hello?
Hello. I'm happy. Let's go. This is gonna be a great final. I can feel it. I can feel it.
All right, just starting this stream off with the trolling. I respect it. If you're just joining us, we are getting into the grand finals of our tournament. It is going to be Tide versus Alver. The Fantastic Four are banned out in this tournament. A lot of the traditional S-tier Tems you see are not allowed to be ran in these teams, which have forced these tamers to bring some unique team comps to this tournament. And boy, has Tide been playing out of their mind. Has Alver been pushing people into checkmate. As we wait for these two tamers to start off this match, is there a Tem of the tournament you want to shout out, Mad Stats?
Like specific Tem or like Tem overall, like that was pretty good for all players. Because
yeah, I'm gonna give you 10 seconds because we are getting into pick and bans. Yeah, what Tem do you think would be like MVP of this tournament?
For Tide, definitely the Banshee hitting the mix. No, but like I like if I had to choose one, it's pretty hard to say. Like there were a few good ones in there.
Alrighty.
Yes.
Yeah. Hashtag don't ever let the whip lump through. We are getting into these grand finals. It is Tide versus Alver. Tide is on the yellow side. Alver is on the blue side as we go into pick and bans. Alver has banned out the mix on Tide side, and Tide has banned the grandpa on Alver's side. The whip lump is available to be picked. That's so scary, as whip lump provides so much pressure against all of these teams. And it is Tide's first pick as Tide decides what the first thing they're going to bring is, hovering between literally everything on their team. Looks pretty juicy going into a Whiplam start. Banshee picked up for Tide. And Ukama picked up for Alver, joined by the Valash. Tide looking at the second Tim, opting to choose that Taifu, that sweatband, water cutting lily, good for everything Taifu.
And look at his face of destruction. It already looks at you, and the look is already telling you, yeah, I'm ready to kill you, man. I'm ready to put you out of my way. If you're gonna stand in my way, I'm gonna get you out of there.
It is, and we are going into these second bans. It is the second ban now for Tide. That whip lump didn't get picked up, and I mean, yeah, banning it out as a second ban. Tide is opting to go with the whip lump. A great choice, as it is now Alvar's second ban.
Yeah, getting it out again. I still would love to see it. I think we had like one whip lump one time. I think it was ours, and it did a good amount. It was pretty strong, so I get why it's getting banned a lot.
The Bastion being banned out on Tide side from Alvar, and picking up Saku for Alvar and Nidrasil for Tide, joined by Ukama on Tide side, and it is now Alvar's final two picks. Interesting on that Bastion ban, as he's already running Ukama as an answer to it, potentially.
Yeah, let's see what's our last pick here to round it off.
Yeah, Mashuk and Calibus picked up for Alvar, as Tide picks up a Mashuk of his own, going into this the first match of our grand finals for the Temporium Weekly. Number 1, Tide versus Alvar. Bad, any predictions you have for this turn 1?
Looking at it, I hope just Boss Taifu staying here and putting out the water cutting lilies again. I would love to see that. Also, I feel like he's not that threatened. On the other hand, Banshee should maybe think about leaving the field here, make space for someone else, because Crystal Spikes here from Relish and Ukama also, like, just putting in the water attack there could actually just pull it off the field instantly. I mean, the Crystal Spikes would probably be enough already. Even unbound.
Yeah. Crystal Spikes dealing 4 times damage to Banshee is 2 times damage to Banshee. Not something it wants to sit through and endure. As Ukama comes to the field to join this Taifu, the water cutting lilies synergy did Alvar have a read on this, as a huge amount of damage goes into this Valash. 55%, the Crystal Spikes onto the Ukama. Ukama with the water cannon onto Tide's Ukama. That Ukama is living large. But Alvar has the speed tie here if these Ukamas go for a first draw on their aquatic whirlwind. Taifu with the cage, not letting either of these Tims get out. The Valash tries to run, but it is unable to. Turbo choreography for the Ukama, but there's no swap in. There is no synergized turbo choreography, and Ukama on Tide side with the aquatic whirlwind is gonna attack into this Valash, and it loses 1% HP. But Alvar has the speed advantage now and the speed arrow with that turbo choreography, and his Ukama is trapped with the cage. A scavenger is coming, and it's coming soon.
Yeah, and also that turn, like, Alvar basically did nothing at all. Only this turbo choreography, which only, didn't get the buff as well, because he probably wants to get Saku in there to get the 2-speed on both of these Tems. And now he just got the turbo choreography off, and yeah, he's in a lot of trouble.
Crystal Spikes coming out from the Valash, that is going to be enough to bring the Valash back up. But if in a tsunami coming out onto this Taifu is going to deal just a little bit of damage, but the Taifu's got its sweatband going, it's got its water cutting lilies, and you can kiss that Valash goodbye.
Yeah, not even a scavenger saving it here. But Boss Taifu says water cutting lily time, it's water cutting lily time, and you're gone.
The TPS reports were due last week. This is what you get. For Calibus, or rather for Alvar, Calibus swapping in. Banshee swapping in on Tide side, wondering if this was the read onto that Calibus, as the Banshee now will be able to out-pressure that Calibus with the insane amount of wind damage that this air specialist Banshee can put out.
Yeah, and Banshee overall is a pretty good option here, or pretty good choice, because like Mashu could have gone in, which also would have a lot of problems with Banshee, and Valash is now off the field, which was the biggest threat to the Banshee.
Calibus swapping out for Alver. Saku swapping in. Aquatic Whirlwind coming out from Ukama Sutra onto the Barnshi, going to deal a good amount of damage onto it. But the Ukama overexerting to do so. Water Cutting Lily from the Taifu as it just smiles and rains death, but it didn't target the Ukama slot as it targeted the Saku. Hypoxia going down on the Saku too. So much stamina being poured into a slot only for 38% of that Tim's HP. Not something you want to see from such heavy attacks.
And that was a little too rough here from Tai, just hoping that the Calibus would stay on. Not the best choice to throw both attacks into here, especially considering that the Saku could come in, and it did come in, and now the attack's pretty much useless. Much stamina wasted, as you already said. And Banshee now also in huge danger. I mean, not as big as before, because Yukama did overexert, but still 44%, and we see it takes a lot of damage from special attacks.
Yeah, and the Saku there able to throw out wind damage, able to throw out so many more types of damage. It needs to be answered before Nidrasil and Mashuk can just run away with this match. A wind burst from the Barnshi. The Barnshi doesn't understand the meaning of fear. As Saku goes for a Lifeful Sap this turn, expecting the Barnshi to swap out. Ukama Sutra resting, Taifu resting, and I think we can say goodbye to this Barnshi, as I'm fairly certain that Ukama is going to outspeed it.
Yeah, if Tide doesn't decide to swap here. But the question is, he does swap, so he's safe.
Tide swapping out for Nidrasil. Nidrasil coming in. Is it going to take heavy damage? Aquatic Whirlwind targeting down this Nidrasil slot, but it's only going to take 1/4 damage from that. And the Ukama overexerting again. Water Cutting Lily coming out from Taifu. Where is this targeting at going to be enough to kill that Ukama? However, the Saku with the tornado onto the Nidrasil. We'll see if the Nidrasil is able to live this, as it does not tank it well. The Saku running Air Specialist is dealing so much damage.
Yeah, basically already close to death here. And he's also not in a position where he can like do much with its attacks. For example, the allergic spread won't do anything here for it. So I guess there should be a swap coming in if it wants to survive. Maybe Tai just decides to let it die to like keep up the tempo so he can swap in freely again, which also is always an option you can take. Gonna be interesting to see what he decides to do here.
Yeah, Nidrasil, a very good physical attacker if it is running Toxic Ink. Unfortunately, yeah, like you said, not a lot of options that it does have here, as that Saku is just hanging out and chilling. Nidrasil also a Hypnosis user. I doubt, though, its base speed outspeeds Mushuk without speed investment. So, go ahead.
Also expect that Calibus comes back in for Saku, so Alva is like 100% sure there's no toxic ticks applied by an allergic spread to Saku, for example.
Yeah, a double toxic Tim here put on the field would not be terrible. The only thing you don't want to see is that Taifu is still there. It's been throwing out Water Cutting Lilies every single turn. I think it's only rested once. The Taifu has access to Hypoxia. I just did not know that. The Mashuk running coat is going to tank that really well. The Taifu not able to take that Irrushable, the Toxic Ink from the Nidrasil onto the Calibus. And is it Alver's Toxic Tims who run away with this game, as Calibus catches the Sweatband with the snare?
Yeah, the answers for Tide are not too good. I mean, he can still get in Banshee, and as we've seen, Hypoxia is there for Taifu, but Hypoxia didn't do much damage to Mashuk here, and I mean, you don't want to swap in Banshee just like that, because it might get hit and instantly die if both focus down the spot. It might get swapped in, so really weird situation here for Tide.
Yeah, another Water Cutting Lily coming out from this Taifu. going on to the Calibus, dealing good damage. The Taifu going to, unfortunately, it was going to die to the poison, but it takes the Urushalol, the Toxic Farewell going on none of these Tims. A narcoleptic hit from the Nidrasil puts the Nidrasil to sleep, but the Strangle is going to wake it up. So much damage put onto the Mashuk, but the Mashuk is still alive as it is a physical wall. Down to the last 3 Tims for Tide, as Alver is on their last 3 Tims too. This Barnshee, it's running Hypoxia, it's running Air Specialist, it's running a fan. One of these 2 Tims could possibly die this turn. Calibus unable to move. Mashuk, I don't think it has anything except Cage and Turbo Choreography that can outspeed the Barnshee.
Yeah, and we still like all Temps on the field now pretty low, so there's a good chance that someone will die, as you said. The options Tide and Alva still have in their bag a full life Saku for Alva and a full life Saku for Mashuk. So this game is like definitely not over or completely at one side. It's gonna be interesting. This turn could be really important and maybe turn the game into someone's favor like hugely.
Yeah, the turn to decide all turns, Tide taking his time and really thinking about this as we see the gold time ticking up in the corner. Well, no, people can't see that right now, actually. So the gold time is ticking down. Tide is at 2 minutes of reserve.
The gold time ticking down? For me, it's the blue time ticking down.
Oh, very interesting. That is, yeah, maybe both of them just clicked the move at the same time. So it might have been both ticking time. Saku swapping in for Alver. Beta Burst from the Barnshee onto the Saku slot, likely predicting the switch. Nidrasil not doing much of anything because of the Strangle. The Strangle also causing the Calibus to fail any moves it was attempting.
Everyone chilling a little bit. Only the Beta Burst coming out and Saku swapping in here. Alva maybe hoped that there was just Hypoxia coming in and Banshee would waste a lot of stamina. Didn't happen, so good for Tide. And now he is free to attack the Calibus spot because there can only be Calibus or Mashuk being there, coming in there, so both would take a lot of damage from the Hypoxia.
Yeah, and it is a terrifying position to be in here as both of these Tamers are fighting for this final victory here. Once I think the Mashuk is going to run away with either side of this game once an answer happens to either the Saku or the Barnshee. We know that the Barnshee, though, cannot take much damage from the Saku. As it even, hitting without 2x damage, the Saku hits into that fragile Barnshee so hard.
Yeah, everything, which, like, if he doubles down on Banshee should be dead, especially if Calibus doesn't die here, and like even Saku might be able to take Banshee out, but Ava's got a lot of good options. I mean, he could also just try to attack Nid. Same goes here. If he attacks Nid with Tornado, for example, from Saku, Nid would die. Mashuk coming in would take a lot of damage. So it's basically even for both of these guys. Weird situation.
Nidrasil swapping out for Tide as the Mashuk comes in and takes its place. Barnshee with the Hypoxia onto Calibus, getting a final move off before it says goodbye from this Saku. The Air Specialist, the Fan, all chiming in to help get rid of that. The Saku attacking the Mashuk, knowing where it needed to place its damage, and dealing so much juicy damage onto the Mashuk.
Yep, and now Tide has the slight advantage. He could choose to use the Wind Burst from Banshee here, which should be faster anyway on the Mashuk. And maybe if that isn't enough already, like some from Mashuk, like a little from Tide's Mashuk, like a little attack coming in there should kill Alva's Mashuk.
Mashuk with the Turbo Choreography, the Synergize going to give 2 stages of speed. Barnshee with the Beta Burst onto Mashuk. And that is going to be enough to take out the Mashuk 100 base damage. The Barnshee don't care about no over-exhaustion, and perfect jab from the Mashuk onto the Saku. Just going to start softening it up as the Saku goes for Rushalol. Not enough to kill the Barnshee. The Saku is out of its lifeful sap, and the Mashuk has another free turn to perfect jab this.
Yeah, and with if Mashuk survived here or like the usual coming out earlier, Banshee would have actually died this turn. But now Tide got all the options. He got Nidrasil. As long as Nidrasil can get on without having to eat a tornado or something, he can use the Toxic Ink on Saku and deal a huge amount of damage. So yeah, this is definitely in Tide's favor, especially considering that the Saku from Alva here is a little bit low on stamina.
Yeah, the Saku gonna have to find an answer for this Mashuk or this Banshee, but in either way, it's either going to be a perfect jab or an Urarushalol coming out from this Mashuk, which is can be the end of this game.
I mean, like, the good news for Alva is that his Saku is speed buff here, so it should be faster than, like, it should always have the fastest attack if it puts out the tornado. I mean, probably was the case before, but now it is for sure.
For anybody watching, occasionally there is a stamina bug for the side you're spectating, but Banshee did overexert, and Banshee is out with an Urarushalol, and Urarushalol comes in from the Mashuk onto the Taifu, or onto the Saku, and that is going to bring it down to 57% HP as both Nidrasil and Mashuk stare down this Saku.
Yeah, both of them have toxic attacks to deal damage to Saku, so this looks good for Tide. Saku won't be able to kill both of them in one turn.
Nidrasil going down to a tornado, overexerting to do so. Urarushalol coming out from Mashuk onto the Saku. The Saku is overexerted. The Mashuk is staring down this game. It is check and mate as Tide takes game one of this grand finals.
Yeah, and actually, like as we said, like the one turn where they had 3 times left, both like had the option to swap, but like the swap is bad anyway. Like this was like the most important turn, and just Nid going out there and Mashuk coming in, surviving a tornado, put Tide like in a favorable position because he had 3 times left then, while Alva only had 2 times left, and they'll probably decide the game. If he decides to just let Nid stay on there, then this could turn out way differently.
Yeah, and all of these like little decisions just stacking up for Tide there in the end, resulting in getting like that victory, knowing that he needed to have some sort of answer for the Saku. The answer being getting the Mashuk to perfect jab it down, and it just came down to the Saku outdoing those 2 toxic Tims at the end, but not having enough stamina just to finish out the match. Which is just one of the things of Temtem. You know, you've got to really, really play with your resources, because no matter how good a sweeper is, one Tim can't win you the game because eventually you overexert, and one Tim can't sweep 5.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know, like, when I started playing Temtem, like, just fun, you know, like, started to play the game, started to play with a friend, we were like, cool, that's like a Pokemon game we can play together, nice. Like at first, the stamina system was, like, a little weird, like, getting used to it, but, like, actually, like, pretty cool, like, we were always, like, just playing the story, we were like, okay, this is somewhat cool, like, you don't, like, can't just do whatever you want and all that stuff. But then, like, realizing how great the system is for PvP, like, it's so great to have this, to like stop Thames from being like going completely.
I'm gonna Fire Blast this turn. I'm gonna Fire Blast. Well, I'm gonna Gigantamax, and then I'm gonna Fire Blast. It's like, no.
And also, like, it gives an intention to not always use your strongest attack, because, like, even though you have 4 attacks in Pokemon, if you have like a super strong attack, you will always use that attack, because why not?
Now,
and, like, in Temtem, it's like I can't use the strong attack all the time because it wastes a lot of stamina. I have to choose something different.
You are saying don't use your strong attack all the time. I would like to say Taifu started out that match on the field, and it water cutting lilied or hypoxia'd every single turn until it died.
I mean, that's Sweatband though for you. I mean, and that, luckily enough, there's only one Sweatband in the game for each tamer.
Only one sweatband. One of my favorite things about having like a motivator Raiken on the field, though, is it's like kind of a flexible sweatband that just lets you have that extra stamina on anyone you need. I really, yeah, and Whiplump too. With that plethoric, I think is its or patient. Whenever it uses a move, it gets more stamina.
Yeah.
And yeah, just whenever it uses a hold move, it gets more stamina. But one of my favorite strategies that we won't see in this tournament is using a Kinu on a Raiken, getting a Raiken big, and then just putting a Puppet Master mix behind the Raiken, and it's just like, I'm here, and I'm Crystal Spiking forever.
Yep.
Nobody's going to tell me different. I really, really love how Tide has been using Taifu, though, this tournament. We are getting into Game 2 of our Grand Finals. It is Tide versus Alver. This could potentially be all the marbles for Tide to win the Temporium Weekly number 11. Tide is in blue side, Alver is on yellow side, as as Tide bans out the Grandpa and Alver bans out the mix. It is Alver's pick, then Tide has to pick, then Alver gets a counter pick. If you're just tuning in, normally yellow side's a little bit favored in the pick and ban phase, so we'll see how Tide plays from this side of the game.
And I really want to see Alva pick up the Whiplump now. I want to see it. It's also such a good answer against many Thames Tide has on his side.
Yeah, it's so bold taking that Whiplump as a first pick. Tide here hovering though that Taifu, as Taifu is an option that can potentially shut out this Whiplump from being picked up and then give Tide the ability to ban it in the second ban phase. However, Alver has a counter pick, and if he chooses to pick this Whiplump, Volcrane can come in, and so many other scary things can come in beside this the Lash at the start of the game, as Tide is now hovering Mashuk, choosing to go with Taifu and Mashuk for their first two picks. Picking up Calibus, as for Alver is going to pick up Calibus for their second pick and ban out the Barnshee here. Interesting.
Let's see if the Whiplump gets banned again.
Yeah, we're going to see what Tide decides to ban. Hovering this Volcrane, but considering lots of different things on this team, as the Saku can be an issue, the Mashuk can be an issue, the Whiplump can be an issue. I feel like out of the Tims that Tide has left, the Mashuk is probably one of the most sensible bans. But without the ability for that Barnshee, finding some sort of answer to a Mashuk would be ridiculously difficult.
There we go. Whiplump's in.
The Whiplump is here. The Volcrane being hovered by Alver. We'll have to find some sort of answer to this to this water cutting Taifu water cutting Lily Taifu on the field. Saku being picked up by Alver, and Tide picking up Nidrasil alongside a Mastion? Question mark? All in all, without the wind damage from Barnshee, Mastion coming with that Pyromaniac Fire Chip is going to help just fill a damage gap on Tide's team. As Nidrasil puts out good damage, Platypus puts out good damage, but Taifu is the only huge heavy damaging attacker Tide has access to right now. But we are getting into this potentially final game. Game 2 of Tide versus Alver. As these two tamers throw out their Tims. Mad, is there anything you're predicting here?
I think having Whiplump this time will help Alver out a lot, especially if you look, it's basically effective against all of the Tims except Taifu. So it will be like a havoc. Having that thing on the field if he can get rid of Typhoon and then have Whiplump on the field, he's in a really good position to win this game. So Typhoon is really important in this one.
Crystal Spikes coming out from Valash as Mastion swaps in to that Taifu slot. Tide recognizing he needs it later, going for the perfect jab on this Valash is going to lower its defense. Toxic Ink coming out from the Calibus onto that Mastion. That Mastion tanks it so incredibly well, going down to 44%. Mastion able to outspeed Calibus, not Valash, but that Valash is pretty pressured if you ask me.
Yeah, definitely not a spot you want your Valash in. Gonna be interesting to see what Elva does here if he just swaps it out again, and I think that's the only thing he can do, otherwise it's gonna be dead.
Yeah, right now Freddie Mercury and David Bowie are dancing around this Valash, saying pressure is pushing down on it as the Mushuk uses Cage. The Valash knows that it's going to be stuck in here, and it's going down swinging with the Crystal Spikes. But the Mastion with an Embers, the physical attack going in so heavy onto the Valash, it's going to be enough to kill the Valash outright from its from that perfect jab. A tsunami coming out from the Calibus onto the Mastion. The Mastion is going to die also, taking that final tick of poison, as it is 4 Tims to 4 Tims on turn 3.
This might be a good spot to put Whiplump in. Even if Typhoon comes out, you got Calibus on your side who can do toxic attacks to it. So you're like not completely open. So this might be the time we see it. I hope so, at least.
Nidrasil entering the field for Tide, and Ukama entering the field for Alver. The Mushuk is trapped. The Calibus is trapped. So we will see what these two tamers decide to do with half of their team being locked in place.
Yep, and he still didn't pull out the Whiplump. I mean, the one problem, while it is effective against basically everyone, everyone is also effective against him, so he's got to be like really careful when he puts it in. But he needs it. He needs Whiplump to do something. It's important.
I think this is a free turn for Tide, as I don't think Ukama or Calibus can kill Nidrasil or Mushuk in one turn, and an Irrushable synergize onto a Ukama slot. There's nothing Alver has that can stop 4 stacks of poison. It's the Calibus that can do that, and the Calibus is already in.
Yep, 4 ticks of poison. Maybe throw in another Toxic Ink as well, because Ukama would be hurt by that a lot, Whiplump would be hurt by that a lot, Saku would be hurt by that, so this is pretty much a free one for Tide.
Yeah, just inching these free turns, but the Calibus has the potential to strangle here this turn, as it can't be one shot either here, which will just limit some of this damage that Tide can throw out each turn. As we see what these tamers have decided, a synergized water cannon is going to go down onto Mushuk, but Mushuk's typing is going to tank that really well and make it immune to the poison stacks. The Irrushables going onto the Ukama, and then the Toxic Ink to follow. That Ukama's under 50% HP, and the Irrushable is slowly going to eat it away as it has its final couple of turns. The Strangle from the Calibus onto the Nidrasil is going to stop the Nidrasil from attacking this turn, but the Calibus swaps out, which means the Strangle is the Strangle is irrelevant now. The Ukama with the turbo choreography is going to get this Whiplump sped up as much as possible. Another Irrushable onto the Ukama is going to mean that this Ukama is dying for this turn. Nidrasil did an attack, not expecting the swap out. The synergized Whiplump is here. It's got wind damage on board. These Toxic Tims are quivering where they stand as Ukama dies to the poison tick.
Yeah, and Whiplump with the turbo choreography, especially now, and having a turn on the field, he's ready to go, and it's like a huge threat now. So this is going to be important. Where does he hit? What does he use? And especially, does Tide put in Taifu to like be safe from it? Like it's a guessing game. It's a guessing game now where Alva has to attack to do the most effective damage. Maybe Tide just decides to let both his Temps stay and hopes like one toxic tick coming through. So we'll do that damage, right?
And in my personal opinion, I agree with you. I feel like letting one of these Tims die and getting the free switch in for the Taifu is going to be where it is at, because anything that switches in here, you put wind damage on from the Whiplump on one slot, and then you put Calibus's toxic damage there, and there's no way the Taifu just switches in for free. The tornado coming out for the Mushuk is going to be enough to kill the Mushuk. The Mushuk says goodbye. The Whiplump's patient taking in the Toxic Ink coming from Calibus. Tsunami the Toxic Ink coming from Nidrasil. Tsunami from Calibus is going to synergize and put a stack of cold on the Nidrasils. The Nidrasil is now in fear of freeze pressure, and we will see what comes in here for Tide. The Taifu with the free swap is ready to scare away that Whiplump.
Yeah, Whiplump's gotta leave if he want to survive this turn. I mean, he can try to deal the damage to Nidrasil and then put Tide maybe on 2 Temps as well. And then we would have a matchup between Taifu Plat versus Calibus and Saku, which could be really interesting to see. But yeah, that's a question. Maybe Whiplup just goes out and Saku comes in, which
it's one of those weird situations too, because it's like Tide can double up onto the Whiplump slot with Toxic from Nidrasil, which is going to hurt the Whiplump, and the Water Cutting Lily from the Taifu. And pretty much if the Saku switches in, that Toxic's going to decimate it, as it will tank the Water Cutting Lily okay. But nothing here is free. As Calibus switches out for Alver, Saku switches into that slot. A Tsunami coming from the Whiplump is going to outspeed the Nidrasil. Here comes the freeze pressure, which means the Taifu is there. The Taifu is ready. The Water Cutting Lily's online, and let's see what slot gets targeted with this. As the Water Cutting Lily goes into the Whiplump is out of here, and that is all of the freeze pressure we are going to get for this game. Nidrasil has amazing typing for these last 2 Tims.
yeah, we got that, and that's why I also think like the Tsunami play was somewhat questionable, because I would have like rather tried to get out some damage on Nidrasil. But yeah, that's how it is now. On the other hand, I like the Saku swap in, because like there was no need for Tide to tag Calibus, so he could get in Saku here pretty safely. Question now though is, what can the Saku do? Like if Nidrasil is back, then he's in a lot of trouble.
Nidrasil swiping out for Tide. Platymus swapping in. Water Cutting Lily synergized from the Platymus is going to deal that extra bit of damage onto the Calibus, dealing 44% of its HP. Tornado from the Saku onto the Platymus. That Air Specialist, that fan kicking in heavy. The Platypus down to 15%. The Calibus overexerting to get the Strangle off, and the Platymus is effectively neutered coming into this game.
Yeah, what a start for the poor Tem, coming in, nearly gets one shot immediately out.
Taifu with another jolly cute Water Cutting Lily onto this Calibus. Noxious Bomb, but failing due to the effects of Strangle. Irrushalol going onto the Taifu. That's 4 stacks of poison as the Calibus rest up for the turn.
Yeah, let's see if Alva's just trying to get out another Strangle here with Calibus. Which, I mean, Taifu is probably able to kill Calibus before it can do anything, so this probably looks like Saku just going to Tornado into the Plat spot, kill off something, probably kill off Plat, maybe even get enough damage on Nidrasil, and Taifu killing off the Calibus. That's probably what's gonna happen here the next turn.
And I want to shout out real quick to everybody jumping in and watching us now. You're watching the grand finals of the Temporium Weekly number 11. There is no big 4 here, as Kinu, Gaialis, Volarin, and Pegapack have all been banned from being used in this tournament. All the teams you are watching are unique Tims and unique strategies being ran by each player, as they all vie to for that first place prize pool that is on the line. So on my screen, I see the blue time ticking away.
orange for me again.
Taifu with another water cutting lily. That's going on to the Calibus. The Calibus is out of here. And the Botanophobia not helping with that. Taifu overexerting in the process. A Noxious Bomb. The Platypus is going to outspeed the Saku. Did it use Windburst instead of its Tornado? The Saku going with Spark Shield, knowing that it's going to need the defense in order to last this game, as Platypus is a physical attacker, and so is Nitrocell.
Still, though, he overexerted for that as well. It's dangerous.
It is a free turn as Nitrocell swaps in and Irarushalol going onto the Saku. Thanks to that defense, not going to deal much, but that Irarushalol is going to deal percentage damage, and it is enough percent to kill the Saku if it does not get a Lifeful Sap off. Another Noxious Bomb eating away at the Saku. The Saku's got to come up with something. A Toxic Ink onto the Saku, and game 2 goes to Tide, winning the Temporium Weekly Grand Finals for number 11. That is going to make Tide our champion for this week.
Congrats to the man, to the Taifu. God, the Taifu boss.
Man attacked his own mix to get into these Grand Finals. The man's a monster.
He had the most memorable play from the tournament, and then he keeps on and wins the tournament as well.
All right, everybody who is watching this, thank you for tuning in today. We are likely going to raid a channel, so stick around as there will be more great Temtem action coming to you. If you ever want to compete in these tournaments, just go ahead and type in the chat right now, !Discord. Join the Temporium Discord, and you can see, and you can enter into our next weekly tournament. You can keep up with our community. We've got auctions that go on. We've try and connect and collab with everybody out there in the Temtem community. And I've been Presby Kennedy, joined by MadStats. I think since we've got a few seconds since this tournament went by so quick, MadStats, do you have any social media where the people can find you at?
Well, they can find me on Twitch, Mad_stats, where I sometimes still do stream Temtem, but not as much as I used to. Otherwise, you don't need to follow me on Twitter or anything.
Don't at this man. Do not at this man.
Oh.
I help host a Temtem podcast called Tim Talk, which you can find on any app you see. And I'm here every Saturday casting tournaments for Temporium. So stick around and we will likely raid somebody. I've been Presby Kennedy, joined by MadStats. You've been watching the Temporium Weekly Tournament. Tide, our champion, our hero, our legend, has won for this week. Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Have a great one, guys.